Hi everyone, welcome to Difference Frames the World, a channel to see the world differently. Please subscribe to our channel and turn on the notification so you will not miss our videos uploaded every week. Yesterday, we uploaded a video titled "The US Dares Not Fight China in the South China Sea." A viewer says the video has a very good title, a good topic, and good intentions to help listeners judge the highly explosive situation created by the US and the Philippines. However, the content presented is unable to substantiate the title with more facts and better analysis. It comes across as just a wishful thinking. We thank the viewer for the comments. However, it is not easy to cover everything in a short video, although we have tried our best to include enough information needed. Still, we want to try again and explain why the Chinese are not afraid of Americans and why they do not fear the United States. American politicians fail to understand today's China. Unable to view China objectively and still think they are a world hegemon, they do not know China's goals or ambitions. As a result, they want to defeat China the way they used to beat the former Soviet Union, Japan, and other rivals. They have gone to great lengths and spent excessive resources to corner China. China is a civilization, not merely a nation. The Chinese have endured countless difficulties over thousands of years. Today's China still has many problems, but is already returning to its historic glory, like the Han and Tang dynasties. From an economic point of view, China has become the world's second-largest economy based on distorted US dollar exchange rates. If measured in the purchasing power parity method, China is the world's number one, much bigger than the United States. China is invincible, like the United States during the Second World War. It has the world's most complete industrial chain system, and is the largest single sales market globally. The United States still maintains a lead over China in the nominal GDP, which America's excessive money printing has largely distorted. Still, in most aspects of the economic data, Washington cannot match China. China has made great progress economically and socially in the past 4 decades. In addition to its rapid economic development, China has grown extensively in military power. Beijing has the world's number one rocket force, boasting the most advanced missiles, and it also has the world's number one navy in terms of surface ships. Its first generation of ICBM, the DF-5 series of intercontinental ballistic missiles, can deliver large nuclear warheads covering the United States and Western Europe. In addition, its new air-based ballistic missiles, DF-21 variants, are aircraft carrier killers in the sky. China also possesses nuclear submarines which can launch its JL-1, 2, and 3 series from anywhere in the ocean, attacking targets thousands of miles away. When the US constantly flexes its muscles at China's doorstep, it should know that New York and Washington are also at China's fingertips. Moreover, China's hypersonic missiles are not easy to intercept once they reach outer space. China has also made great strides in other cutting-edge military weaponry, and this progress has covered all branches of the military and all fields. The Chinese Navy's third aircraft carrier will likely be in service by 2025, and its fourth one is also on the way. The construction of its fifth one, most likely nuclear-powered, may have also commenced. In the coming 10 years, Beijing will have 5 to 6 aircraft carriers, enough to safeguard its waters. Although the US has 11 aircraft carriers, Washington cannot deploy all of them near China, as it wants to maintain its hegemony worldwide. In addition, most of America's aircraft carriers are aged and some are already on the verge of retirement. China also has the world's most advanced destroyers, the 055 series. They are much newer than America's rusty ones. It is worth mentioning that the US has a military expenditure of nearly $900 billion every year. Still, the US Navy cannot afford enough paint to refurbish their Granny-class cruisers. China's shipbuilding has ranked number 1 worldwide for 14 consecutive years. In 2023, China's shipbuilding completion volume, new orders, and orders on hand accounted for 50%, 67%, and 55% of the world's total deadweight tons, respectively. Nearly 200 years ago, the British could threaten the Qing dynasty with a gunboat, and China lost the First and Second Opium Wars to British and French warships. China has now built the world's #1 navy regarding surface ships, and 11 new warships have been commissioned in the past 15 months until March 2024. We have said many times in previous videos that China is building warships like making dumplings, which is still valid today. America's shipbuilding industry is diminishing, and Washington has no other option but to seek the help of Japan and South Korea to revive its idled shipyards, speeding up the building and maintenance of its warships. The U.S. is not a manufacturing power anymore, and even its military-industrial complex cannot produce enough weapons and ammunition to refill the depleted stockpile after sending military aid to Ukraine. The top 10 U.S. military-industrial enterprises currently have less than 1 million employees. They constantly lay off employees due to the decreasing U.S. scientific research investment and military orders. America's only aircraft carrier catapult manufacturer went bankrupt 1 year ago, which explains why the Ford aircraft carrier cannot return to the old catapult system even when its new system fails now and then, making USS Ford the world's biggest toy on the ocean. China's top 10 military-industrial enterprises have over 1.7 million employees, with their aircraft factories and shipyards still increasing. Moreover, China's private sector can be transferred to military production anytime. China has 1.4 million science and engineering undergraduates yearly, almost 3 times America's, so China can set up more military enterprises than the US when needed. China's manufacturing capability surpasses the total of Western powers, including the US, Japan, Germany, France and Britain. The country can make enough weapons, ammunition and other supplies if war breaks out. With 2.3 million service people, China ranks number 1 globally, and most, if not all, of its soldiers are native Chinese. In contrast, around 1/4 of America's 1.4 million soldiers are not Americans. When war breaks out between the US and China, the Chinese army, who are already highly brainwashed by the Chinese government, should be more loyal than their American counterparts. We do not think either the Democrats or the Republicans have their political commissars in the US Army to inspire their soldiers. As China is not as aggressive as the West blames, the potential war between the US and China is more likely to break out near China, not the other side of the Pacific Ocean, so the Chinese soldiers are defending their country, not invading Americans' homes. They tend to occupy the moral highland and have a higher chance of winning the war. Apart from its 2.3 million service members, China also has 20 to 30 million veterans who are able and willing to protect their country when summoned. 2 centuries ago, the Chinese already realized the threat would be from the ocean. If Beijing and Washington go to war someday, the Pacific Ocean, particularly the West Pacific, will become the battlefield. After 40 years of rapid development, China has become so potent that the United States cannot form a blockade in the first island chain, and the second island chain cannot stop China from advancing to the ocean any longer. China's warships have already patrolled the waters near Alaska, and it can also approach the American mainland's coastal areas when necessary for so-called navigation freedom. When Beijing and Washington go to war, the American mainland will also be ruined, not a paradise like in World War I and II anymore. America's voters will most likely force their government to end the war as fast as possible to avoid further casualties. U.S. interest groups have entangled interests in China, so a war with China will be disastrous. On April 27, 2024, Reuters reported that Moscow might seize U.S. private assets if the U.S. dared to freeze Russia's currency reserve, which may set a precedent for China in a possible confrontation between Beijing and Washington. Big multinational companies in the U.S. will lobby Congress not to fight China for their interests, even if they believe China cannot win the war. As we always say, China and the U.S. are world powers, and will not go to war if they do not have to. The U.S. knows it cannot win a war by itself, so it will only instigate proxy wars to weaken China, like using Ukraine against Russia. Taiwan and the Philippines are the first proxies the U.S. may use in the South China Sea and the Taiwan Strait. However, once the war begins, Americans will pull away immediately. A few days ago, China and the United States almost had a confrontation near Hwanggan Island when the USS Roosevelt, having just finished the joint military exercises with Japan and South Korea, hurried to the South China Sea for the shoulder-to-shoulder joint military exercises between the U.S. and the Philippines. 3 Chinese warships lined up to greet the U.S. aircraft carrier, and the latter quickly fled the South China Sea to a safe area 1,600 kilometers away in 3 days. In the previous video, we said that history repeats itself, and America is already a history teacher. Today, we want to rephrase it: history repeats itself, and the US is now a history professor. In the coming days, we will make a video about why the US fears China and targets it as its biggest imaginary enemy. Please subscribe to our channel and share our videos with your friends so DFTW can soon become a 1 million subscriber community. Thanks for watching the vid, and we hope to meet you in our future videos in the air.